Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review episode 5 of Day of the Dead. So, this episode actually was a watchable episode. It took us 4 and change to get here, but I say change because this is technically the 5th episode. So, it took us time to actually put together something where like, wow, I could watch this whole entire episode on mute and I wouldn't care, because it seems like they're like, wow, there's some actual payoffs in this show somehow or another, even though there's also the moments where we have to realize that it seems that the women in this show are much stronger characters than any of the men are. For whatever reason. I don't know what that is. I don't know what they're trying to do here. But we just have like Blackwood at one point who's to be shouting out like, yeah, I'm special forces, bitch. I'm like, who cares? You have a guy you're going up against that trips and falls over a shoelace. But Rhodes had put in the fear of God into Blackwood. Just the fear. How intelligent actually is Rhodes, or the character? But when I question that, I'm like, well, across the board, we have that same kind of consistent mentality. The worst part about this episode is probably the whole Luke and Trey thing. So immediately, I would highly recommend, once you get to the Luke and Trey part, just put that whole scene on mute. Just kind of just watch them and just be like, I wonder what they're talking about. Hopefully something of real, interesting dialogue, and let's make up something so it sounds better than what they're actually saying. Like, yeah, man, like this whole zombie apocalypse is like, man, it's really going at me. It's taking me down hard, you know? Yeah, and Luke is just I hate that part. I hate the part of the show. It's the worst part of the show. Plus, we have to like go into irrelevant things of this show. We have to go and have Cam like talk to Paula and then try to contact his dad. And here's the hilarious thing that I spotted in this episode. So we get Cam, who is to mention that he needs to find his dad, but he's not going anywhere. Hey, you want to go with us? I need to find my dad. Does anybody not have understood that dialogue whatsoever? That he is going to just stay here to find his dad because his dad is not in this location? Good God. That is the stupidest line that I think has come out of this. Well, no. The cure of death has got to be high up there, right? Let me know in the comments below, out of this whole show, what has to be the dumbest line or the dumbest dialogue or the dumbest interaction between people in this show. But not only that, I think Sean has become my favorite character in this show. I'm really investing in that character. I really want to see where they go with this character, because I really and truly believe that that Sean is going to get something really important going on here. So be on the lookout for that guy named Sean, because he's really good in this episode. Just head above tails above everyone else. Because there's a reason for that. That he's to just be so good. So Pamela, I could actually deal with Pamela in this episode. They kind of nerfed her down to be a person that I can actually tolerate now. Like, she doesn't have those yelling whatever moments, and she is a much more calm, like, person, which can actually make me tolerate this character. I'm like, oh, thank God. They figured out a way to make this character bearable on screen. Bravo to the people who wrote this show. So, here's my pitch. If they can finally seemingly do a somewhat okay zombie show, because I don't know if Sci-Fi has done a zombie show before. Was Z Nation, was that a Sci-Fi thing? There might have been a previous zombie show that they did before that actually was way better than this, because there was a budget involved and money involved and acting experience involved. And so I would like Sci-Fi to adapt a comic book series, so that way they can have this be like the Walking Dead of their channel. Honestly, I hope that Sci-Fi goes and takes and adapts Fanboys versus Zombies. If you've never heard of it, go and check it out. It's a comic book that actually I thought was really interesting. Excuse me. The concept of it is basically a bunch of fanboys who go into this like Comic-Con like convention, and a zombie apocalypse happens while at this convention. So basically, imagine a bunch of people cosplaying as your favorite character getting eaten alive by zombies. It sounds pretty fun, right? I'm hoping that there's either a movie or a show about this made, because there seems to be enough comic books to justify a show being done. But also, everyone check out the movie Black Friday with Devon Sawa and Bruce Campbell. Check that out. Looks pretty good. It looks way better than whatever this is. So check that out, because that's actually coming out within this month. So definitely go out of your way to see that film if you can. So let's go into it. Let's go into spoilers, because I've kind of teed this up and I've almost kind of divulged some things about the show. I'll be honest. I said a thing or two. Any of the main characters who probably were to have good story in this episode don't. So like Fisher, he's just kind of there. Lauren is just kind of there. Luke and Cam, Luke's story freaking sucks. Cam, pretty much the same old. So who even has a good story in this episode? And I'm justifying that it's actually good. No one? Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Nobody actually has a good individual episode-like thing, but it's just closer and closer teeing up to a thing that we've already seen, and so I just want to get to that point. So, let's just go into that double five. Let's otherwise go into spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil the show. So, let's go into the Blackwood McDermott kind of beginning of this episode. So, because we're leaving off exactly, because I know we had the whole Trey and Luke thing, but I just want to try as much as possible to avoid to get there until I feel like I absolutely have to get there, because that's story. Anyways, so Blackwood and McDermott are still having this Mexican standoff-like thing, where we go into the exact same kind of thing that happened in the last episode. We're like, hey, you shoot him, hey, you shoot him, hey, you 3 weeks later, you shoot him, you shoot him. I'm tired. God, like, why did we have to go right from the thing of the last episode? Just get to the point all frickin' ready. This is so stupid that we had to go right back to this point. Uh, you should. So nobody is to really shoot anybody. People are to run off. Blackwood and McDermott are to run off to just have Rhodes go and grab McDermott, drag him back into this cage that has some zombie in it. And we're thinking, oh, this is where McDermott is finally going to turn. Because opening pilot episode. And so we get there. It takes a while, but we get there. It takes a whole entire episode to get there, but still, we get there. Find a frickin' Lee. So, Blackwood is going off into, like, seemingly hide behind this, like, metal thing that has, like, a ventilation shaft next to it. And I'm like, oh, is Blackwood all of a sudden going to turn into Bruce Willis and Die Hard and just be like, come to a party, have a few laughs, but no, she doesn't actually go into the ventilation shaft, she just kind of hides. And so Logan and Rhodes are also hiding, and so Logan is turning to Rhodes and saying, I thought you took care of her. And we have the she is almost close to she is line in this movie, or this show, because it feels like a movie at this point. It feels like a franchise of a film that's kind of gone and lost its way at some point. We have Rhodes who's to mention, I put the fear in God in her. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you are the same person that tripped on some shoelaces in a previous episode, right? I am getting the same guy correct, right? Who trips on shoelaces and fear of God? I think not. Like, all Blackwood is to do is to just basically, like, find some kind of makeshift like weapon, and she can just murder Rhodes, even if it doesn't have a sharp point. Even if she can murder him with her boot, just like pa, and he's dead. Like, that's how stupid this guy is. It's like Home Alone. I'm watching Home Alone with Blackwood and frickin' Rhodes. That's the equivalent of these characters now. So it's weird. So McDermott gets put into this cage because Blackwood is going off not giving an F. And so McDermott is put into this cage with this zombie that is to seemingly be on this weird leash of a thing, because they couldn't have just gone on and, like, cuffed this character to this cage. We have to have this weird leash of a thing to where they reel him back to create this suspense of, oh, McDermott is finally going to get eaten by this zombie. But no, they have to kind of reel him back to where it doesn't seem like that. But slowly but surely, this zombie is going to rip his arms out of its arms and and go after McDermott, which is great. But before that, McDermott is trying to convince Rhodes, like, Rhodes and other guy that's wearing SWAT-like gear, like, you need to stop Logan from doing what she's doing, because she's turning rats into zombies. And I'm still wondering, and I'm still curious, what does that mask do? That mask in my brain is like, that needs to be some, like, Jim Carrey, Are You Sure You're Not the Killer movie thing, where, like, either by the spot upon sunlight or the gaze of the moon, you put on this mask and all of a sudden you have either some slaughterhouse video game like super abilities, or you turn into Jim Carrey from The Mask, and so you can wipe out all these zombies in one fell swoop, or you just turn in this colossal like zombie thing. Maybe if you put on the mask, you turn into a specialty zombie. I don't know, but there should be something going on with this mask to make this story unique. When we have Resident Evil coming on out right now fairly recently, they need to do something with this mask. Put the mask on, make somebody a superhero. I don't care. So they and here's the thing of why the guy who's wearing the mask before did not like have superpowers is because he was underground. He was underground for a reason, so that way they couldn't have him get his superpowers from this mask, and they probably didn't even know that it was a mask. Or maybe this mask could cure people of their zombie infection. Or maybe you can turn people into zombies like that. Finally, we have some kind of mask-like thing that can possibly just give us some kind of interesting story here, but they probably won't do anything with it. Because of course not, right? But Logan is to turn a rat into a zombie that had gotten trapped into some mousetrap. And PETA is going to have a field day with this episode. How could they have murdered this big fat rat? What kind of garbage is this? Fur is murder? Alright. Anyways, so the rat turns into a zombie, and then Logan is to dump this rat into this acid. I'm like, why didn't they think of that before in this show? Where it's like, hey guys, we have a zombie, just get a whole big vat of acid and just drop it on them, like as if they're like, that would have been a way to beat these zombies. Just, hey guys, just Nickelodeon slime all of them and kill them off. Like, have there be some kind of acid weapon concoction that just kills all of these zombies. Because that has to be the only way now, besides fire, to kill these things. Because McDermott is to go and wipe a zombie out, seemingly by fire in this episode. Whether or not that all of a sudden brings green smoke into the area, which is to start to turn other zombies, like in Return of the Living Dead, which that would be cool if that happens, to where we concoct something where if a zombie is to actually die via certain means, like fire or some kind of something like fire, to where it creates a kind of smoke like thing, man, we could have just certain people all of a sudden rapidly become zombies, and we don't have to bite them, we don't have to turn them, we don't have to whatever. They just forcibly become zombies like Return of the Living Dead. Why didn't anybody come up with this? Even I couldn't have come up with this until right now. But pushing on. So, I'm taking too long for this. I apologize. So, McDermott is to not really convince anybody to give about him being freed. And so at one point, McDermott is to talk to Blackwood before he's to get dragged off, and mention that all he wants to do is go back home and get drunk and go back to a normal day, and talk to his son and whatever. So, but now McDermott is to get out of his cage because this zombie is coming after him. And so, because Blackwood is to come and rescue McDermott and have him get uncaged. And so Blackwood is to go and have her gun like pointed at Logan, as well as getting a scalpel to go into Rhodes's neck. So they're letting McDermott out. What good does it really do? Not much, because McDermott ends up getting bitten on the neck and he's gonna die. And I'm like, yeah, die, McDermott, sadly. Become a zombie so we can finally just understand that whole opening sequence. God dang it. Why that they haven't gotten to that point at this point is just like ma to me. It's just ma. It's like a cow. So McDermott comes a zombie because he's telling Blackwood, hey, like, I'm not going to make it, so just, like, go out on your own. And so now, like, was the zombie bite that McDermott did that do it, or was it just McDermott was to die? I'm assuming that McDermott bled out. So now we figure that no matter what happens with any of these people, that if they die, they become a zombie. I guess we have to figure that out now. That if someone is to die, become zombie. So no matter what happens, like they could lose a whole hand and whatever, like as long as they don't bleed out and die, like they won't become a zombie. So I guess that's the whole thing now. That there isn't a timetable, I'm assuming, because, well, wait a minute. Lauren, though. So let's get into the Fisher stories. So Fisher's at his wedding, and he's trying to convince Amy about what's going on, and everybody's thinking that he's to have cold feet, and so here's the hilarious thing. So Herb goes all the way out to this wedding thing to tell nobody really jack crap nothing. Herb is just kind of talk to his wife about things. And like she says, it's like, well, hey, people are starting to question things. People are starting to get antsy. And Herb is just wait. I guess he just tells like his wife to just kind of wait a couple minutes, but that's not really saying anything. That's just saying like, just wait some more. Who gives a shit? But Herb goes back while Fisher is a talk to Amy and Sean is in there, just kind of like is kind of putting his 2 cents to every bit of dialogue that Fisher is to have. And so everybody is questioning whether Fisher has cold feet, even Amy. Just be like, you know what? Like, Fisher, like, I know there could come to certain, like, situations where, that, like, you're kind of questioning things, and Fisher's like, no! We're going to die! We're seriously gonna, like, you guys cannot believe me. And so while Herb is going there and is like, is this all because of the prenuptial agreement? Is that all of what it really is? And so all of a sudden, we finally have the wedding environment that is to have some wedding crashers, because zombies are coming in through the floorboards of this wooden like place that they're in, and they're starting to attack people and starting to eat people in a way of which that has this repetitive shot-like footage where I don't know how many times you just see this one woman kind of face down and a zombie is to be like eating like somewhere around her like neck to like bust like place, and it's just nom 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 nom. I'm like, I don't know how many times I've seen the shot like 2 to 3 times of a zombie just eating the exact same place of a woman and it's always a woman. It's never a guy. It's always a woman. And I'm like, God, do they just reuse like shots over and over again? Or is it just a different woman every single time with the seemingly same zombie? Or like, what is this? I need to know now. Are these things just, do they reuse shots? I desperately need to know. Do they reuse shots? Or is it just they have to keep creating the exact same shot multiple times to waste things? To just, like, they can't come up with anything creative, so they're doing the same shot 3 to 4 times, but with different people, in different clothes, in with different zombies, or whichever. I'm just, like, what the are these zombie-like things? But again, we have a bunch of random shots of just zombies just walking in the streets somewhere of Calcutta. And we just have like random shots where it seems like zombies are kind of all over the place. But like we still go back to the yum 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 and the woman with the dress and thing. Good God. So Fisher is to have told Amy, hey, you knew about the prenuptial agreement. And Amy's like, no, I didn't know anything about the prenuptial agreement. And plus, also with the zombie apocalypse happening, a prenuptial agreement sounds really just moot right now, because what are they going to really have left after this whole scenario is to play out? So, all of a sudden, they're talking about the prenuptial agreement, and I'm just like, God, all this dialogue is such a waste. But Fisher is to finally go and turn and realize, hey, why did the music stop? I'm like, thank God. There is an important part of story that is going to come on here. So now they go out into the wedding thing to all of a sudden see people attacked by zombies. And I'm like, yes, yes. And so that's the satisfying part of the show. It's people getting ripped and torn apart. We have Herb's wife who's just kind of going through and she's like, ah. She's like, oh, she's like mortified. And then like she comes out of this whole thing while people are getting torn apart to just talk to Amy. And now Amy's mother is to mention how Amy's mother is going to try and save the cake for them to eat in their 1-year anniversary, which I'm like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be eating a cake a year later. No. So the mother is to grab the cake and the piece of the cake, and then she ends up getting dropped and dragged by this zombie. So Amy is, if I'm even saying that right, is it Amy? Yeah. Amy is to try and grab her mother in a weird, goofy-like manner that would not be able to rationalize that Amy is going to have the strength to really pull her mother out of this scenario, because Amy's holding on to, like, the cake and her mother's hands, which that's the next thing that presents the visual of now the zombie, I guess, was to eat off this woman's hands. And now we just see Amy with this cake and the arms of her mother, and she's like, oh. So Fisher and Sean are going and trying to drag people out of this little tent that is starting to get splattered with blood. And Fisher goes and grabs some actual people. And Sean goes and grabs a zombie and tries to pull the zombie out. And he's like, oh! Everybody has this oh! kind of thing on their face. So we all of a sudden have just 3 zombies just standing right next to one another. Like, hey, great party, right? Hey! like that's what I was expecting them to happen. These zombies are definitely not dressed to go to a wedding, but I think that these zombies aren't dressed to rationally do anything. Whoever dressed these zombies, man, that is some weird hodgepodging like clothes that I could not, like, were those the infields? Who were they? Like, when were they? Why were they? I don't get why they, like, the clothing on these things. Man, zombies, right? Zombies, bro. So, so what ends up happening is that Lauren is to come in and save the day and is to have all the family go into her hearse. And so I'm like, wow, this actually presented a decent kind of approach to this. But before Lauren is to kind of save the day with these people, we have to figure out why Sean is so important in this episode. Vitally important to the survival of this show. Because Sean is to go and they're all to run into this place. And so Sean goes and drops to one knee and proposes to Amy and says, like, let's get married, honey. Like, I've loved you since forever. And Fisher's like, seriously? And Sean's like, yeah. Like, I will fight for her love. She is worth fighting for. So Sean goes and takes off his blazer. And immediately I'm just like, how is this guy going to die? Because we have a rush of story arc going on with his character. How is he going to die now? And immediately the very first zombie, this guy doesn't even get one legitimate lick in. He doesn't even get to kick anybody or drop kick somebody and then fall to his death. No. This guy immediately, the very first zombie that he sees, immediately like thumb to the eye or finger to the eye, and Sean is like, oh, the fingers, oh, the whole hand, oh, everything. Like the whole arm is, oh, it's in my hand now. It's in my head. Basically. No, he just gets fingers to the eye and now he's dead. So, I'm actually waiting for zombie Sean. I want to see that. Can we see that in an episode? A blind zombie? I want to see that. That looks cool. That'd be cool. Bring back Sean as a zombie. Show, you better do that. So, you better. A blind zombie? That'd be sweet, right? So, Sean is freaking dead, and I'm like, of course. This is the dumbest, like, I think people wanted to see where this character was to go, but not like this. Not like this. So, Lauren goes and is to rescue these people to save them from seemingly one zombie via a cleaver. And then they run into this kitchen where Lauren is to still save people using weird, bizarrish kitchen utensils. Like this one, like, shish kebab-like thing, this metal shish kebab-like thing that she kind of thrusts through two zombies, and they get stuck together. I'm like, you know what? That's actually, like, some of this sequence right here with taking out these zombies, thumbs up for whatever reason. But then they get whisked away to go to this hearse, and so they're all thanking Lauren and like, being so grateful that she saved their lives. And so all of a sudden, Lauren is weirdly, like, doing some weird, like, what does she have? Arthritis in her hands? Is she having rigor mortis in her fingers? Is she gonna die and turn into a zombie soon? We can only hope, right? We can only hope. But I don't know. Maybe they're just gonna have to figure something out to cure Lauren at the last minute, because we need to have some certain characters here, and I think Lauren might fit the bill for us needing to have certain characters here. Because Lauren could maybe be the doctor of this scenario if we don't have, like, Logan, who's technically a scientist? Doctor? Maybe? I don't know. So, but Fisher, I guess, could be a doctor, but still. Fisher is probably going to die sometime soon because of the whole thing where he is to mention about, like, Native Americans and Indians. I was like, oh my god, really? They went there in this show? That was stupid. If there was ever a stupid thing that they put in this show, was to just mention how like Fisher is from India, and that there's also Native Americans here. I'm like, well, just really, we have to do some kind of some goofy, weird racism like thing here going on, explaining things to. That was so lost on me. So let's go with, since we got most of that out of the way, let's go into the Luke and Trey thing. So Luke and Trey, they're moaning and groaning about their wife slash mother. So Luke is to mention that all his mother cares about is her being a mayor. Oh man, I started just crying when Luke was to mention that. I just power cried throughout that whole bit of dialogue that he was to say about his mother. I just couldn't stop crying. And then Trey goes in and he mentions that he had an affair with his mother, but then Nicole's dead. And Trey goes and says that he hasn't slept with his mother in over 2 years. And so Trey went on to go and have an affair with Nicole, but now Nicole is dead. And Trey is going and having these stories about, like, man, Nicole could do all kinds of things in the bedroom. Like, you wouldn't have thought of what she could have thought of. Like, that's how skilled she was. And oh my God, just, oh. And Luke is just like, ew, you're technically my dad. And then Trey eventually rebuttals and is like, oh, I'm sorry, son, about telling you about my escapades and that me and your wife haven't, or me and my wife haven't, your mother haven't slept in 2 years. And just, Luke is just like, oh, this story's the worst. So, and all that garbage, I wanted to get that out of the way as quickly as possible because it's just the... so freaking gross. Such a just story. But that's why I had to make that weird face. So pushing on to a more relevant story. So Paula relevant is pushing it. So Paula goes and talks to Cam, and now we have to seem like, did Cam and Luke have a relationship at some point? Like an actual, like, maybe they were lovers at some point. Like, I don't want to question anything here. Pamela goes to Cam and is to say, like, you know what? You guys were friends once, like a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But you know, like maybe sometime soon you'll just rekindle that friendship. Maybe this will be the opportune time to just rekindle that friendship. And I'm like, I'm gonna barf. I'm gonna hurl. What the is this story? So Cam is to go off and is to just speak from the heart using some emergency line and mention that that he's gonna, like, speak to his dad and talk about all the problems that they've had through this emergency line that McDermott isn't even going to hear from at all before he dies, sadly. And so Captain Pike is now calling back from the state police to tell us that the state police won't come within the next 3 hours. I'm like, oh my God, that's like the whole rest of the season of this show. For this first season. So we're never going to have the state police come here? They're never going to rescue anybody? You might as well just say that the state police are never going to come, as well as Captain Pike basically says that the state police are never going to come. And I'm just like, I want the state police to come in here and then quickly get wiped out, so that way we just have a huge battle between the police and the zombies. And what a cool battle that would have been, right? But I guess zombies are kind of piling up in the town anyways, so now the city just has to defend itself, right? Because it seems like we're getting into much more zombies in this town. It seems they create that illusion. So now we have everybody leaving from this police precinct because I guess they have enough armory and weaponry and stuff to where when Luke and Trey arrive at this army precinct, Trey is to mutter the words, "Hey, I feel like Deadpool." No. You need 2 blades into your back. Basically saying you're going to die. But but you need 2 blades to be held on. And a cluster of weaponry besides just 2 whole guns in your hand doesn't work that way. You could say that you're probably John Wick because you probably look like him, but whatever. Why Deadpool? This is not a comic book thing. Whatever. Maybe they came up with, like, they had other ideas of what to call themselves. I feel like John... No. Well, I guess Deadpool did have a comic book where he did go and fight dead presidents, so I guess that's where they're going with there, because that's probably the only recent comic book that has some relevancy that had something to do with zombies, but that comic book went in a way cooler direction that this show goes into. So, if they would have tried to copy and paste what happens in that Deadpool comic book, that would have been a massive win in my eyes, but they didn't. They could have honestly gone into a very severely comical variation of this show, and I think I probably would have liked this show a lot more if they did. So, now, let's quickly finish this up, because I took too long to do this. I apologize, but let's finish up. So, everyone is to all leave this place as they armor up, and they head to this kind of superstore, or this convenient-like store, where now I'm like, oh my god, this is gotta be the best thing in my life. That they finally have this place that feels like this sports store or something, where they can now have some kind of, like, Dawn of the Dead-like thing going on here. That there's kind of like some missed Dawn of the Dead-like thing that they can do with this story. And I was like, ha 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 ha. Gift from the gosh darn heavens. I swear to God, if they don't have this be a mainstay for the rest of this show, and it's not just a one-off thing, I am going to be severely ticked. Because I want this store that is at the end of this show, to be a forever thing. Have this be their place that they just stick around and just consistently find more things to help them out in this situation. So with that said, I think I cover most of this episode, but if there's something that I missed, I do apologize, but otherwise I'm going to try to quickly get out of here because I know how long this was. I know how long I ranted. I apologize for any number of things that I said here that wasted time, like right now. So I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody. If there's anything I forgot about, I'll probably rebuttal in the next episode, but I don't think anything else is really all that important enough. Go zombie! I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.